In this video, I am going to show you how you can use individual Excel formulas to find all the summary statistics that are output using the data analysis add-in tool summary statistics. So first, here we have some data for pressure to PSI and the summary statistics output that I found using the data analysis add-in and the summary statistics tool. And we can see that the first output is the mean. Well, the mean is the average. It is the arithmetic mean, the average, what you get when you add all the data values together and divide by how many you have. The Excel formula for that is average. Notice if I type equals and start typing average, it will pop up and I can double click. So to compute the average, I simply tell it the values I want it to average, and these values are in cells A2 through A41. So I'm simply going to type A2 colon A41. The colon says that I want to include all the values in between those two A2 and A41 as cells as well. So all the cells from A2 through and including A41, and there is the average. The standard error is the standard deviation of the sampling distribution of means, and there is no individual Excel formula to compute this. If you wanted to find this, you would have to compute the standard deviation divided by the square root of count, which is the number of values in the data set. So we could go equals, take the standard deviation, divide it by the square root of the count, which is the sample size, and there is the standard error. The median is the physical middle of a data set. It is the value that separates the top 50% from the bottom 50%. So to find the median, you do equals MED, and there's median, double click, A2 colon A41, close the parenthesis, and there is the median. Now the mode may or may not exist, and it may or may not be unique. Here we see the mode does exist, 2500.8, and it does turn out that this is the only mode for the data set. So if you wanted to find a single mode, you start typing mode and notice there are two mode functions. There's mode mult and mode single. So mode single will give you the only mode if there is only one, and it will give you the first or smallest mode if there is more than one. So mode single, A2 to A41, will give us the 2500.8. We also have mode mult. If there is more than one mode, mode mult will give it to you. And notice when I click this FX to see this box here, well, first, before I do that, let me go equals mode mult from A2 colon A41. All right. And now if I click this, notice that they have the 2500.8, but within curly brackets. It's represented as a set. So if there is more than one mode, you will see several values within the curly brackets. Here there is only one, which we had already determined there's a single mode. Now, if there were more than one and you wanted all of those modes, you could not simply click OK. You would have to press Control Shift Enter, and then if there were more than one, it would list them all out, each one in an individual cell. Here we have the sample standard deviation. So equals STDEV dot S, and the S stands for the sample standard deviation, because a population standard deviation and the sample standard deviation are slightly different. So we want the sample standard deviation, A2 colon A41, and there you get the sample standard deviation. To get the sample variance, you will use var.s, where again, S stands for sample, because the sample variance and the population variance are different. So var.s for the sample variance, A2 to A41, and there is the sample variance. Kurtosis is a measure of peakedness or flatness of a distribution, and it is more correctly thought of as a measure of outliers. A negative value tells you have a pretty flat distribution, platykurtic, and therefore few, if any, outliers. A value close to zero means it's about the same as a normal distribution, and a value positive means it is leptokurtic, a steep, skinny distribution, and many outliers. Here we see it's negative because there are few, and in this case, actually no outliers. But to find kurtosis, you just type kurt, and there's your kurtosis. Skewness, this tells you if it was fairly symmetric or left or right skew. Here we are close to zero, so this is a fairly symmetric distribution. But you can do skew to get the skewness. Now, the range is simply the maximum minus the minimum. So there is no built-in function for that. It's the same as just going max minus min. Such a simple computation, there is no Excel formula for that. All right, so the minimum value can be found using min. So if you needed that to find the range, you could find the min, maximum value, max. So again, if you wanted to compute the range and all you needed then is to find min and max, you can use these. Whoops, what happened here? I'm sorry. There we go. All right, and then of course find the difference between those to get the range. The sum of all the values. Just use sum. And then finally the count. Okay, counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. You don't usually use that because we have them listed here. And we can see it started in A2, went to A41, so there's 40. So we don't really need to worry about that. So these are the individual formulas that you can use to find the summary statistics that would be output using the summary statistics tool.